A thought came to my mind, and I'm glad I'm circling back with this thought. And I think this will be important for caregivers. You talked about your various experiences in terms of providers, right? In terms of school, the medical field. And I think this is an important thought to share with people. Make sure that those providers that you're working with, that they're clinically competent, they are culturally competent, right, as well.
Yes,
Really important. And
yes.
there's this new language that we've come to understand that's important in the field, which is cultural humility. When we talk about culture, we're not just speaking, of course, of a person, the color of their skin, but you want to make sure, because not all providers are clinically competent.
Yep. So true.
Listen,
So
I'm in the
true.
field. Not all providers are culturally competent, and not all providers understand cultural humility, where they will say, "Tell me your story. How can I better serve you?" So I wanted to really highlight that, because I would imagine that it can be an overwhelming experience when you're working with providers who are not competent and who will label and who will declare, well, this is who your child
Absolutely.
is going to be. Yeah, what are your thoughts
Absolutely.
on that? I know we're
So,
going to move forward, but
yes. So, yes, we can circle back. When I mentioned earlier about the pediatrician who, I think I had about 3 or 4 visits before I decided, okay, that was it. And I was given this pediatrician specifically through the hospital because he was closer to the community I lived in, and not knowing what Dakota's medical history would be, they wanted me to have a pediatrician closer to home. So, because my older daughter already had a pediatrician that was a bit, out of the city, so they wanted someone closer to home. That did not work out. Needless to say, after about my third or fourth visit, I had had enough of the negativity. And so I learned very early on that you're not going to declare things about my child, especially when I was told while she was in the womb that she would be either stillborn or live
Mhm.
1 week of life.
Wow.
So I was already, I remember calling a prayer meeting right after I was given that news. And we're saying, we believe in God's report.
Yes.
I don't know why you chose to give me this child right now. With my older daughter, I was considered high risk. I didn't think I could have another child. I found out maybe about 10 weeks into my first trimester that I was pregnant, didn't know that I was. And so I saw purpose. She or he, at the time, I didn't know the gender, is here for a reason, for such a time. And I said, I will not accept anything that you are telling me that's not a positive news. And so I remember asking the pediatrician, how many children with Down syndrome specifically have you taken care of? And he looked at me sort of dumbfounded. I don't think he had any history of that. So of course you do not know how to tell me about what my child may or may not do, or what my child is capable of. I can even go into the school with you. I can't tell you how many TAs that I've gone through before I've gotten to the point of saying,
Yes.
okay, now, and the last TA I got, who's been now with my daughter for the past 3 years, the first week that she was with my daughter, I knew something was different.
Yes.
Just from what was coming home, the texts coming home to me each day, everything that was happening. Within the first week, I called her up and I said, who are you and what's your story? I
Yes.
knew something was
Yes.
different. And she said to me, she told me, introduced herself again, and she said, I have a son with special needs. And I said, there you go.
That's it.
I
That's
said,
it.
you're not in this job because it pays you. You're
Yes.
passionate about what you're doing. You're not just here to collect a paycheck at the end of the week. You're coming from a personal perspective.
Yes.
And I said, you get my daughter? She said, yes, I do. And we have worked so closely together. So much so, she's written a book about my daughter.
Wow.
That is going to be it, because she graduates at the end of this school year, going into middle school. And this was an early graduation gift for my daughter.
Oh,
So it
wow.
just tells me everything about the people that you work with and how much they're invested, what their passion is about the work that they're doing. And I'm an extremely passionate person when it comes to my child. I will go to the ends of the earth. I will do whatever it takes. And so I would partner with anyone who is willing to do the work. And if
Yes.
you're not in it for the right reason, I got to tell you, it's just not going to work with me. And so I've gone through the school. I've gone through several meetings with each principal and different people. I have had, okay, we'll come back to that another time because I think you're going to ask for that later. I'm going to leave that part for later. But just to say that unless you are in it for the right reason, I will see through it and say, okay, this can't work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Well, what do you want people to know about managing our mental health? Right. Part of this journey, and you'll tell us a lot more about this, is the mental health aspect of navigating and coping with this experience. So, what do you want people to know about taking care of our mental health?
If you had told me prior to having her that I would be able to do this, and I would be doing it without a father in the home, because I was separated from their father. My older daughter was about 2.5 years old, and Dakota was 8 months old when we separated, and a year later we were divorced. And part of that happened because during the time when I was pregnant and the hospital was telling me, oh, you need to abort, this child is not going to be viable. Why do you want to put yourself through all that? And, at the end of the day, you're going to have to turn around and bury her. Why do you want to do this to yourself? And he basically sort of said, he sided with the hospitals. He said, I think you should listen to what they're saying. And, I kind of saw the writing on the wall through that, this is not someone I'm going to be able to partner with. Whether I don't know what the degree of disability would be. Would she be even mobile? Would she be in a wheelchair? I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't care.
Yes.
I just know that this was my child, and whatever it took to make her life easier, I was going to do it.
Yes.
And so for the first 2 years of her life, I did not work. I stayed home with her and made sure, did every therapy that I could, do to get her where she needed to be. Occupational therapy, feeding her, because children with Down syndrome has extremely low muscle tone, extremely low. So eating is not as easy as just putting something in their mouth and let them eat it, or give them a bottle and you have to have them, they have to be sort of put at an angle, can show you here at an angle when you're feeding them with a bottle, because again, even the passage here from their ears going down to their throat is very narrow. So instead of it going down like a typical child, it can go in and collects into their eardrum. And she had to have tubes put in because she had these excess fluid that would keep going into her ears and all these things. So I had to learn all these things on the fly, figuring out how to help her. And so I had to learn these massage techniques, how to warm her face up, how to warm these muscles up, so that, and when we were introducing solids, because the tongue tends to protrude with children with disability, with Down syndrome, giving them something to eat and introducing it right here doesn't help. The tongue pushes it back out. So you have to introduce it to the sides of the mouth, and then the tongue goes around, finds the food, and that's how they learn to eat solids. So all these things I had to learn. She was extremely nonverbal the first few years of her life. I had to learn sign language to communicate with my child. And Deandra had to learn sign language as well, so that we could communicate with her at home. So if you had told me that I was going to be doing this and without a husband, without a father in the home, I would tell you, you must have lost your mind. There is just absolutely no way I could do this. And so it was it challenging? Absolutely. Extremely challenging at times. There were times where my kids would go to bed at night and I would just lay in my bed with tears falling down my face, because I don't know I just know that the next day I have to wake up and do everything all over again. And I'm doing this by myself. And, but it does take a village. And I did have people within my circle who would help, especially one of their godmother, unfortunately, is no longer with us as of this past year. But she had a son with disability, with Down syndrome, who died at age 28. And so she helped me so much.
Yes.
There was a time where I remember Dakota had to have eye surgery. And I had just enrolled myself in school. I went back to college, which at the time sounded like a good idea. Halfway through it, I thought I had lost my mind. What are you doing? How could you be going back to school when you have, two young kids? But after she had to have her eye surgery, she could not go back to daycare because she had to recuperate for a while. And I remember this lady saying to me, just pack her up and bring her. And she stayed at her house until she was able to go back to daycare so I could stay in school. These are things. So there were people within my village. There were people from church and within the community who came alongside me and helped. And at the same time, I could, I could speak to my pastor, and I could, I couldn't afford to go into counseling as I knew I needed it at certain points. But there were other people that I could sort of speak to and sort of, sort of get it all out there, because you do need to talk to somebody at times. And my older daughter, unfortunately, did have some issues after our divorce. And I had to find her, as I said, it was above my pay grade. So I had to dig deep, and I had to find someone who could counsel with her and help her through this. She had anxiety. She would wake up at night screaming. She had these nightmares, and all these different things happen. So your mental health is extremely, extremely important. And for you to, I know it can be a little taboo, especially within the Black community and within our churches at times. Just pray about it. There's nothing wrong with praying. There's absolutely nothing wrong with praying, but you do need to find an outlet. You do need to find someone who is able to help you through all the different things that you're going through. And I could only be mom. I didn't know how to help her through all the other things. And so I tried my best. I was mom, but I needed someone who was equipped, who knew how to reach her in those areas. And today, at 12 years old, almost 13, I got to tell you, I am so proud of her. She has come such a long way, and we're doing just fine.
Wow. Thank you for sharing the importance about taking care of our mental health. And you mentioned it, and a lot of the work that I do is helping communities to end the silence, the shame, and the stigma of mental health. And you mentioned it, particularly in our culture, the African American community, the Caribbean culture, and the church community, the faith community. Right, we want to challenge our communities, whatever your community might be.
Yes,
know
absolutely.
that each community has their own stigma as it's related to mental health, but we want to be that generation that ends the silence, the shame, the stigma that surrounds mental health. We've got to take care of ourselves, right? And if I'm
you
not
have
healthy,
to, because if I found out as I was going through all this, that if I was not okay, I couldn't myself, if I was not whole, I could not take care of my children. So I had to be okay. I had to make sure this was okay first in order to reach them. And so it's extremely important to take care of your mental health, whatever it takes, do whatever it takes. Do not just rely on, I just need to pray about it and leave it there. Keep praying is extremely important. And I'm not telling you that you do not need to pray, but I'm saying find people who God has instilled wisdom in, and these people are equipped to help you through the different areas. You do need that.
Wow. And my friends who are listening, you've heard it, right? One of the greatest components, and we know this both clinically and through research, that helps us to manage and cope with challenges of life is our faith. Of course, Dion and I, we are embedded in the faith community.
Absolutely.
We are believers, and that's what helps us to manage and cope and navigate. But whatever your faith is, we know that there's so many who will be listening And the way, we approach this through a clinical approach is to say, whatever your faith is, whatever causes your spirit to soar, whatever inspires you, please dive into that
Yes.
so that you can manage your mental health. The
Yes.
other thing I really want to highlight is what you said. You talked about your village and the community and the church, the faith community. My
Yes.
friends, I say this all the time. You don't have to be a therapist to be therapeutic, right?
No, not
You
at
don't have
all.
to be a clinician to care, right?
No.
Simply sitting with someone. You may not have all the answers, but just being there can
Yes.
serve as therapy for someone, coming alongside them. So
Yes.
often people will say, well, Dr. Cassell, we don't have degrees like you and we're not trained like you. And listen, my friends, and Dion, you know this, I didn't start out in this journey with degrees, right?
Right. Right.
I started in the faith community and recognizing the need to go
Yes.
back and equip myself. But I really want to highlight some of the best therapists are not my colleagues or even myself. It's your
Yes.
aunties and your uncles and your
Absolutely.
grandmas and your godparents and the
Absolutely.
pastor at your church,
Yes.
your youth leader,
Yes.
your youth pastor, and
Yes.
whoever it is might be in your faith community. But as we begin to wrap up, what do you want people to know about disability and special needs awareness and the need for that? What do you want to share with?
Okay, so this is this I could go on forever about, and this
Yes.
is where I shine. Uh, so having Dakota has opened up my eyes. I say that I now see people, if you understand me. I don't just see you, I see
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And so when I see someone, especially that I can see even from the outer, that from the appearance, I can tell that there's a special need. I immediately stop. Like, they stop me in my tracks. And I want to reach out. I want to introduce myself. I want to talk. I'm so compassionate all the time when I see individuals. Sometimes I go to the doctor and I see that, people there signing, and I understand the signs because I've had to do signing for my daughter, and I want to just talk. And I've gotten to know so many people through that avenue. So what happens, especially with Dakota, International Down Syndrome Day is on March 23rd. And it's March 23rd, yes, because it's the 23rd chromosome that's triplicated. And that's the reason for the extra chromosome. So there are 3 copies of the 23rd chromosome. And that's why, so March being the 3rd month, and then the 23rd chromosome. So every March 23rd is International Down Syndrome Day. And so what I started going to her school, asking the principal to allow me to come in. And on that day, we have an assembly. And I go in, I do, first year I went in with a PowerPoint presentation. I showed pictures of Dakota when she was just born in the incubator, everything, all the tubes everywhere, and what, and to what she is today. This is God. Look at the miracle. The child who was supposed to be gone within a week, still here. And so we make T-shirts for myself and for my 2 daughters with the colors of Down syndrome are blue and yellow. So we make T-shirts in blue and yellow. You may see them online at times because I do post things around that time, especially. And so I go in and I do my presentation. We have a question and answer. The kids are always so excited about hearing about what it is. What is Down syndrome, and why is Dakota may speak a little bit differently than we do? Why sometimes does she sometimes get a little bit more tired and may not be able to do a lot of the things that we do for a long periods of time? Is this something like the cold that I can catch? Can I still be her friend? All these things that as kids, they don't know because their parents don't even know a lot of the time about them. And for the longest time, now they're 2, but for the longest time, my daughter was the only child in the entire school, the entire elementary school from JK to grade 5 with Down syndrome. Wow. So they had no idea. And I wanted to let them know that it was okay. There was nothing wrong with her. She, if you cut her, she bleeds just like you do. She's just a human being. Some things are a little different, and I want to outline what they are and explain them. And so ask me anything that you want. So we do this at her school. And now that she's graduating and will be going on to middle school next September, I'm going to have to start that all over again for a new school and, getting to know everybody. And everybody at the school knows her. I mean, everyone from JK through grade 5. She doesn't take the school bus, yet even the bus drivers know her. She's, it's just, yeah. And so I, make my way in, and I do whatever needs to be done during that time. I do the same thing at my church. And again, everybody at my church knows Dakota. And explain ask me whatever you want. Again, language is important. Yes. I found out through early on that a lot of people used to use the R word.
That's right.
And the R word, which I will say, which normally I don't, but the R word is retarded. And so we don't use the R word. I said it in the Black community, it's like using the N word. Right. It's extremely offensive. And so I even had to explain to members of my family why that was not okay.
Yes.
And so when you don't know, it's okay. But then I take that as an opportunity to educate, to explain to you why that is the wrong word, why that is offensive, and why we use the words of special needs and disabilities and things of that nature. So once you know, and we don't, we try not to reoffend and go from there. So yeah, I take every opportunity that I get to bring awareness and to explain what's going on, and that it doesn't mean that they're incapable of doing things. It just means it takes them maybe a little bit longer. It means that they may have to do it a different way. They're not broken. God makes no mistakes. He didn't make a child that is a broken child. They're unique. We're all created in our own unique ways. And at the end of the day, they're just another human being who deserves to be here. They deserve to be here on the planet with all of us. They have a right.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. And as we begin to wrap up our time, my friends, I trust that you've been so inspired by Lady Dion's story. And I want to say this as we close our time, two things just resonating with me to say to you. First of all, thank you for saying no, whatever that means, right? Thank you for saying no to so many who told you otherwise.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for saying no to those doctors. And
I get emotional thinking about that, because there are times I sit and I look at her and I get teary, because I'm thinking, first and foremost, if I did not know God, if I did not have a relationship with him, I would have said yes. Because I would have just felt like, okay, there's no way I can, if something is wrong, then, why do I want to, put myself through this? But I know having a relationship with God who says, you are, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so I knew from the get-go, regardless of what was going to be her disability, he or she was going to be their disability. I said, the God that I serve, the God that I trust, he was going to give me, I believed it so strongly. He was going to give me the keys. He was going to give me the skill set, everything that I needed, the know-how to give this child a good life. And so I was not even scared. I was not afraid of the unknown. I took it on. I said, because I know who God is. I know who I serve. And so, I remember at one point I had to say to the hospital, because each time I'd go in for a visit, they would, you have to terminate this pregnancy. And at one point I remember, I'm just going to share this before we go. I had a dream one night before one of my appointments. And in this dream, I was in my church and I saw a child on the stage speaking. And this child was probably about, uh, uh, you know, 9 or 10 years old, somewhere around the age that Dakota is right now. And I looked closely and realized that was my child.
Wow.
Now I'm still pregnant. I didn't have her yet, but I'm like, oh, that's her. And the child on the stage said, I may look like I have Down syndrome. I may look like I have a disability, but I don't have it in here.
Wow.
And I want to thank my mother because of her faith is why I'm here today. My
Yes.
mother's faith is why I'm standing on this stage because she said no. I just wanted to share that. And I went to the hospital for my appointment the next day. And I remember saying to the room full of doctors, with all due respect, I don't know if you believe in God, but I do.
Wow.
And as of this day, termination is not on the table. It's not up for discussion. Each time I come for my visit, you do what you need to do for me and you send me on my way. We will not discuss termination. And that was it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Lady Dion, thank you again. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your journey. Thank you for taking your pain and turning it into purpose, taking your pain and turning it into a project. Thank you for becoming a healer to so many. And that's what you're doing today. How can people, we won't give them your telephone number or your email address, but I know that you're on Facebook. I know there are many who are going to be watching who will say, how can I reach out to her? So if we could give them your Facebook, just your Facebook name, and I know you're so open to
Absolutely.
right, so just give them that again. We
Absolutely.
won't give them your social security, your bank account. We won't give them your telephone number, but we will give them if that's okay with you. So tell us how to
Absolutely.
reach out to
I'm
you.
on Instagram as well. I do
Please.
post a fair bit of Dakota's journey as well there. And so on Instagram, I am my handle is all together lovely underscore all underscore together underscore lovely. And of course on Facebook, I go my maiden name, which is Ormsby, Ormsby, Dion Ormsby. Find me there. And if anyone, I always say that if my story, if Dakota's journey can help one person along the way to say, if a doctor tells me that something is wrong with my child, and I got to tell you, a lot of times women end up terminating very healthy children because the doctor saw something that was off, just something. And sometimes it's not correct. Because even with Dakota, they told me that in the beginning, they saw something in the back of her head, that it was open, that it would not close up. And during the pregnancy, they kept saying it's still open. The back of her head is open. And she will, if she doesn't die at birth or at 1 week, she would be a vegetable because there's something completely wrong with the back of her head. There's this gaping hole. And I remember at birth, they did this whole cranium thing and they could not find this, whatever space they thought they saw was not there. And they said that my child would be a vegetable. She would not be able to do anything for herself. She walked before she was 2 years old.
Wow.
And which again is very early. And a lot of things she did, which is, on the scale, on the spectrum of children with Down syndrome, she's exceeded a lot of those.
Yes.
This is God. And so I say, if I can, just one person, listen to your heart and carry this child to term. They have purpose. God put this child in your life for a reason.
Wow.
They have purpose. Do not listen to what the doctors say about your child. Listen to God's report. I
Wow.
believe that with all my heart. I have no regrets, none.
Wow. Thank you again. Lady Dion, thank you. Yeah, we speak blessings, well wishes to you,
Thank
your
you.
amazing daughters, and
Thank you.
we pray that they would continue to maximize their potential, their purpose, and be the best version of themselves, Deandra and Dakota.
That's my
And
prayer.
we
Yeah.
look forward to hearing even more amazing reports. My friends, thank you for tuning in. I know you've been inspired like I have been inspired, and I've been informed. I've learned a wealth of resources today that will help me in my journey in the work that I do in coming alongside families as they journey through whatever they are facing. We want to remind you, for more resources about special needs and mental health, I invite you to visit our website at c3inthistogether.com. Of course, we're going to put the information for Miss Dion on the screen so you could reach out to her as well. But we invite you again to visit our website, C3 in this together. Also, if you are impacted by this video, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is C3 in this together. Please share this video, leave a comment, and let us know how you've been impacted by this session so that together we can bring hope together. Together we can bring hope to others.
Absolutely.
So that's really my
Yes.
heart for this series in 30 minutes in our own voice, that together we can share hope and live out hope. We also want to remind you and encourage you to take our 21-day thankfulness challenge as well as our Next Gen Hope Challenge. My friends, we will see you next time for 30 minutes in our own voice, our series. I hope you've been inspired as I have been, and we'll see you again. Lady Dion, please give our love, well wishes, and our blessings to your amazing ladies in your home.
Thank
Take care, my
you
friend.
so much.
See you
Thank
next
you for
time.
what you're doing. Thank you. Prayers and blessings on you. Thank you.
We
This is so
receive that.
important. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Blessings, and we'll see you, my friends.